Welcome back, beautiful people, to a brand new day of CS2 Case Market Coverage. We're going to be jumping right into this because we don't waste your time or your money here at this channel. Starting out with the snakebite case, but a cent from yesterday, which is actually looking pretty good and going to set the tone for the changes that we've seen on the market for a lot of these cases. It hasn't been upward for all of them. Been downward actually for some of them, but for others, it's up a slight amount here on the clutches, up about a cent from yesterday to 73 cents, up from 72. The CS20s, realistically here, up to about a buck 22, maybe even 23 here soon. We were at 120 in the last video, so up about 3 cents on those. The Prismas both have stayed stagnant. The Prisma 2s actually moved down a little bit here. We are at 138 in the last video. Realistically, you could say maybe these moved down to about 135, so about a 3-cent drop. This isn't a ton of cases separating it from that price that it was in the last video, so I wouldn't be too worried about the Prismas now. With the Prisma 2s, I wouldn't be worried with the Prismas either though, because these are at 138, which is exactly where they were in the last video. So while they're still down from the drops that we saw, it's nothing too crazy. Now I do want to get into why we're seeing these drops. It's actually to do with the fact that we're seeing the drop of the fever case. Now I wouldn't recommend investing in this yet because this is still going to go down a very large amount over the coming months. Do not invest in this right now. This is a very like maybe even years from now, invest in case because it's gonna be in the active drop pool for a while, stuff like that. So yeah, I'm not gonna be talking about this case, but you do have to know that this case did drop, which is basically encouraging a lot of people to dump off other cases or whatever that want to open the fever case, things like that. It generally, when you see a new case drop, you will see some falls in the market on a lot of other cases, and that's I think actually what we're seeing. Thank you guys for pointing that out in the comments because I was tying it personally to the world market that literally coincided right with this time where we saw like some slight stock crashes. Now that's not always related to the market. Sometimes you can explain some market movement with real world market movement, but I thought that's what was going on, but actually the explanation about the release of the fever case makes much more sense. So that's definitely why we're seeing some of these drops. Anyways, with the danger zones, we're up about a cent from the last video. The horizons, this is one of the few droppers that we've got in this video. Realistically, we're at 207 in the last video. Now down to about 204, but again, it's not too big of numbers of offloaders, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. Now with the shadow case, up about 7 cents from the last video. That's looking pretty good, up to about 209 there. The falchion case is one that we are down on though, about 11 cents down from the last video. It's probably some offloaders though. Let's take a look at this. Yeah, realistically, not that far. We're about 3 cents down from the last video. If you actually look at it, we were at 241 in that last one. Now, I'm not going to get too much into every single one of these cases because a lot of these in particular didn't move. Um, like even something like the revolver, it looks like it moved down or something. It really didn't. It's just some offloaders. And the revolver specifically has stayed stagnant for a prolonged amount of time. So there's multiple cases that are like the revolver, and we're just going to rattle through some of these that have seen really just menial growth or droppage, nothing really meaningful at all. So the revolver case really hasn't moved much since the last video. The spectrum case hasn't either at all. The wildfire, I think, may be down slightly if we go ahead and look at this. Yes, actually down about technically 30 cents, but this must be some offloading. Yeah, this is another one of those cases where it's just offloading. So when I say like it looks about the same, but realistically on the listing, like front price, it looks dropped or something. I'm with those cases in particular, they're just like it's just some offloaders. I wouldn't trip when I say it's basically the same and you see it be like 20 cents off. It's just some offloaders right now. But it's really the same thing with the gamma twos and a lot of these. Now we actually have seen movement up on all of these, but with every single one, it's like multiple cents or some of them it's a little bigger, with the exception of which case was it? The Phoenix, which we're seeing some offloadings again. Just like I said, it's just some offloadings. It's nothing crazy. This is the only one we're seeing a giant drop on from the last video if you just are looking at the case like front price, but I wouldn't worry about that too much. Now, as with some jumps, we've seen multiple cent jumps on a lot of these. The gammas are up about 7 cents. The chroma 3s are up a couple cents. The Vanguards are back up closer to where they should be, but there's still some offloaders on the market. Up about Vanguards actually took a pretty big climb up, like 25 something cents from the last video. So yeah, and you see that with a lot of these cases. These mid-tier price cases can tend to fluctuate in price a little bit more, especially on these time periods where we are seeing price fluctuation, just because there's less in circulation on these ones. But and one that we have seen some good positive movement on is the shattered web case. This was at like, where were we at, 588 in the last video? So back up to 612, which is pretty nice. This is one that's taken a pretty solid climb for us, while others have taken steady, slow recoveries. The Shattered Web is taking a very quick one. The Chroma didn't do much movement at all. The Broken Fang actually reclaimed about 16 cents on the market. The Winter Offensive is down a little bit, maybe about 20 cents from the last video. The Breakouts, let's see about these ones. Down about 11 cents from the last video. Again, this could just be a front listing price, though. Yeah, realistically, not really down too much when you get rid of those 50 cases or so. Holding it down. The gloves are all the way up to 13, guys. These were just at 10. Oh my goodness, this is crazy. That's crazy, crazy movement that we've seen. Like, look at that. Whoa, brother. Insane growth from the glove case. That's really unprecedented. I don't expect this to stay like this forever, but really like it very well could stay at least above like a $12 range, which is still a giant growth nonetheless. So yeah, and I don't get too much into these higher tier price cases just because they're so much harder to invest in. I'd be saying that every video. It's and there's just so much fluctuation on these day to day. It's not even really worth covering too much. But that's about it for the big movers. We haven't seen anything in particular climb a crazy amount outside of like the Shattered Web or something like that. We've seen some steady progression on some cases, something like the Danger Zone case, um, or some things like the Clutch case, or a lot of these mid-tier price cases have rebounded from where they took those initial little surges down. They are rebounding a little bit, which is good to see, but we aren't seeing too much crazy growth on the market, any like shooting back to where the market was or anything like that. Though it's still not down from where it reached that height, so I do think we could be marching towards that. Uh, as we recover from the release of this case here soon. But yeah, that's all to be seen in the future. Thank you guys so much for coming out. I'll see you guys in the next one. And yeah, peace out.